Antarctica is the only continent on Earth without a native human population. It is a land of extremes, the coldest, driest, and windiest place on the planet. For the vast majority of human history, it did not exist in our records as a physical reality. It was a rumor, a mathematical necessity, and a ghost on the edge of the world. Today, we see Antarctica through the lens of satellite imagery and scientific research. We see a continent encased in an ice sheet that holds 70% of the world's fresh water. But if we look back 500 years, long before the first wooden hull ever broke through the Antarctic pack ice, we find something deeply perplexing. In the archives of the Renaissance and the maps of the Ottoman Empire, there are depictions of a great southern land. Some of these maps show coastlines, mountain ranges, and river systems in places where, according to modern history, there should have been nothing but empty frozen ocean. This series explores the history of the hidden continent. We begin not with the heroic age of exploration, but with the silent documents that suggest the world may have been mapped far earlier than we were taught. To understand the mystery of the maps, we must first establish the timeline that modern academia recognizes. For centuries, the southern continent was a myth. The ancient Greeks, led by the philosophy of Aristotle and later the geography of Ptolemy, believed the Earth required a southern landmass to balance the weight of the northern continents. They called it Antarcticos, the opposite of the bear, the constellation that marks the north. But for 2,000 years, this remained a theory. In the 1770s, Captain James Cook circumnavigated the globe at high southern latitudes. He was the first to cross the Antarctic Circle, but the ice turned him back. Cook concluded that while a continent might exist further south, it would be a country doomed by nature never once to feel the warmth of the sun's rays. He believed no man would ever venture further than he had. It wasn't until January 1820 that the continent was officially sighted. 3 different expeditions, one Russian, one British, and one American, claimed to have seen the ice shelf within days or months of each other. According to this timeline, Antarctica was a blank space until 1820. It was a place of new discovery. Yet, when we examine the cartography of the 1500s, the blank space is often filled with startlingly specific details. In 1929, during the renovation of the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul, a fragment of a world map was found, dated to the year 1513. It was signed by Piri Reis, a renowned admiral and cartographer of the Ottoman Navy. Reis was a meticulous scholar. In the margins of his map, he wrote that he did not survey these lands himself. Instead, he compiled his work from 20 different source maps. Some were contemporary Portuguese charts, but others, he claimed, dated back to the time of Alexander the Great. The Piri Reis map is famous for its accuracy regarding the longitudes of the African and South American coasts. But it is the bottom of the map that has sparked a century of debate. The coastline of South America appears to bend to the east and continue across the Atlantic. In the 1960s, Professor Charles Hapgood of Keene State College proposed a radical thesis. He argued that this lower portion of the map was not a distorted South America, but a representation of the Queen Maud Land coast of Antarctica. Hapgood's most controversial observation was that the map appeared to show the coastline without its current ice cover. He pointed to the presence of bays and inlets that modern seismic soundings have only recently confirmed exist beneath the ice. While the academic community largely rejected Hapgood's broader theories, the accuracy of the coastal outlines on a 16th century map remains a subject of quiet, persistent inquiry. The Piri Reis map is not an isolated case. In 1531, the French mathematician Oronce Finé published a world map using a heart-shaped projection. At the bottom sits a massive continent labeled Terra Australis, recently discovered but not yet fully known. What is striking about the Finé map is its scale and its features. It depicts mountains and river valleys where the Ross Sea and Marie Byrd Land are located today. Unlike the vague circular blobs often used by mapmakers to represent theoretical lands, Finé's continent has a distinct, jagged complexity. 2 centuries later, in 1737, the French geographer Philippe Boitier published a map that took this mystery a step further. Boitier's map shows Antarctica as 2 distinct islands separated by a vast inland sea. For a long time, this was dismissed as a complete fabrication. However, modern sub-glacial mapping has revealed that if the ice were removed and the sea level rose, Antarctica would indeed be an archipelago, 2 primary landmasses separated by a deep channel. How did Boitier, or the sources he relied upon, arrive at a geographical truth that is only visible through modern ice-penetrating radar? The standard explanation is that these were lucky guesses, logical deductions based on the way other continents were shaped. But the precision of these guesses continues to challenge the limits of coincidence. How do we reconcile these documents with our known history? Scholars generally offer 3 primary explanations. The first is the cartographic imagination. In this view, Renaissance mapmakers were artists as much as scientists. They knew the world needed to be balanced, so they drew a continent that looked realistic, based on the geography of Europe or Asia. They added mountains and rivers because a land without them seemed impossible. Under this theory, any resemblance to the actual Antarctica is purely accidental. The second explanation is misidentification. Many historians argue that what we see on the Piri Reis map is simply the coastline of South America, distorted by the mapmaker's struggle to fit a spherical Earth onto a flat piece of parchment. They suggest that the Antarctic coast is actually just the tip of Argentina, bent sideways due to a lack of space on the page. The third, and most provocative, is the lost source hypothesis. This suggests that the ancient maps Piri Reis mentioned actually existed, that some seafaring culture, perhaps from the late Bronze Age or the pre-classical era, possessed the technology and the will to map the Southern Ocean. This knowledge may have been preserved in fragments, passed down through the Great Library of Alexandria or the maritime guilds of the Middle Ages, before being incorporated into the world maps of the 16th century. This theory does not require lost civilizations in the sensational sense, only the possibility that human maritime history is older and more expansive than the written record suggests. Antarctica remains a silent witness to our past. Whether these maps are the result of brilliant intuition, cartographic error, or a forgotten era of exploration, they remind us that our knowledge of the Earth has always been a work in progress. We are often taught that history is a straight line of discovery, moving from ignorance to total clarity. But the maps of Piri Reis and Oronce Finé suggest that history may be more like the ice itself, shifting, obscuring, and occasionally revealing glimpses of a world we thought we were seeing for the first time. In our next episode, we leave the world of parchment and ink and head into the Southern Ocean with the first men to actually touch the ice, and the strange, unsettling reports they brought back from the edge of the world.